Hi everyone. It would be great if we could have done this in person because it would have been great to see everyone's faces. So yeah, as Danny said, my name's Brittany. I am currently a change management graduate at Hermes. I'm sure you've all heard about Hermes before. They are the courier company. I'm sure you've had parcels delivered by them. So I'm part of the change team. So we kind of look at ways to improve the business. It could be the customer journey or implementing new systems to kind of improve HR. So that's kind of my job role at the moment. I'm really grateful to be invited here today to discuss planning your career path, and I think it's a super important subject. So I'm just going to run through the contents of my presentation. So I'm just going to do a quick timeline of kind of everything that I've experienced in my kind of career, but starting off from high school. And then I'm going to move on to kind of the importance and why you should plan your career. I'm going to kind of discuss a little bit about the importance of time management and how kind of some top tips on how to be better time managed. And then I'm going to move on to the importance of resilience, especially in this current climate of COVID. Then I'm going to move on to networking and my top tips for networking as well. Then just a brief slide on kind of some of my experiences and achievements, then just a roundup of all the key points from the presentation, and then I'll leave some time for some questions at the end, so I hope that's okay. So yeah, here's just a quick little timeline of kind of a couple of key milestones that I've experienced during my last couple of years. So I am only currently 23, so I think I might be quite a similar age group to the people on the call today. So 2014 was kind of the year that I was in high school. So I participated in Young Enterprise Company programme, absolutely loved it. It was the first time I'd ever been exposed to enterprise, running your own business skills, leadership. It was brilliant. And our team went on to win the Best Presentation Award, which was an amazing achievement because our school had kind of never won the award before. So yeah, it was brilliant. After that experience, prior to that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my career. I knew I really enjoyed talking to people. I knew I loved managing people, but I just wasn't 100% certain. But kind of after my exposure to Young Enterprise, it really made me kind of want to know a bit more about business enterprise and entrepreneurship. So I decided to do that at college. But between that time, just before I started college, I thought it would be really good for me to try and get some work experience on my CV because I hadn't had any kind of paid work experience or even just free work experience at that point. So I used people in my network at that point. So that was a family friend, and I worked at their business for 6 weeks during the summer. And I also became student prefect at high school as well. I also then started college. I got another internship during the summer. Again, using contacts and also getting involved in stuff in college. So I got involved in as many programs as I could. So I did Young Enterprise and I also did Career Ready, which preps you for employability skills and your career. I got a part-time job, started looking at university pathways. Still, again, I wasn't still 100% sorted on kind of where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. But I still applied for a couple of courses at university and started visiting some as well. In my last year at college, I made the decision to not go to uni at that stage. I didn't feel like I was ready, and I didn't feel like I was 100% certain on the idea of going to university. I think it's quite a big decision to go to university, and I think you need to be 100% yes, that's what I want to do. So I decided to take a gap year. I thought that was the best thing for me. And again, I used my contacts. So during my second year at college, we did some work experience for 6 weeks. And I worked as a marketing assistant at a debt management company. And when I decided not to go to university, I contacted the head of marketing there because I got on with her really well, and she knew how I worked and she knew I was a very determined individual. And I just said, is there any way you can give me an opportunity at your business? Is there a way I can work there? And thankfully they offered me a full-time job, and that was such a good thing because I used my contacts. I didn't have to apply for any jobs. I obviously had to go for an interview, but because I'd been highly recommended, I wouldn't really say it was an interview. It was more like a calm conversation, and yeah, it really sorted me out and kind of relieved my stresses of finding that job. In that same year at college as well, I won Young Enterprise Northwest Student of the Year after completing Young Enterprise in college as well. So again, that was a massive achievement. And I also won the Association of Colleges Highly Commended Student in the UK, and I was invited down to the House of Commons to collect this award. So then just during the 3 years that I did decide to go to uni, because I took the gap year, I worked for a year, but I just realised that I really wanted to progress in my career, and I felt like the only way I could do that is just getting a bit better knowledge of how businesses run, how to manage, how to lead the business environment. So at that point, I decided to go and study at the University of Chester. Throughout all my years, I've always tried to get as many experiences as I can. I think it's really important to use your time. Summer holidays, I always tried to find summer internships. So when I was at university, I completed a summer internship with Enterprise Rent a Car, which was really hard to get. I had to go through a 5-stage interview process, but it looks brilliant on my CV. It's a massive company, and it really gave me exposure to a summer internship. And yes, I did have to work during my summer, but it helped me excel in my career and kind of be able to apply for jobs like the one that I'm in at the moment. And then kind of where I am now. So obviously last year, once I'd kind of finished my degree, so I finished in June, so I was still finishing my degree during COVID. So I had to apply for jobs online. I was really worried that there wasn't going to be anything available for me. And then I did a virtual interview with Hermes, which was the weirdest experience because I've never done a virtual interview before, but thankfully I got the job. It was really hard to get, but I'm so thankful I got it. I achieved a first in my business degree. And now I'm kind of focusing tail end of last year to this year. My main focuses are being a young enterprise business advisor. So I work closely with a high school and help them along their business journey. I'm a Career Ready mentor and I'm on the local advisory board for Career Ready. I'm a mental health ambassador at work, so I'm having mental health first aider training next month, and I've begun a qualification in business improvement techniques. So that's just a real brief kind of timeline all squished into one of kind of everything that I've done in the last couple of years. So moving on, planning your career path is extremely important. You've probably heard it at school, you've probably heard it at college, you've probably heard it at university if you're at university. I think there's a lot of pressure to know what you want to do. I think when I was in high school, I felt a lot of pressure because a lot of my friends knew that they wanted to be a teacher, they wanted to be a doctor, and I still wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. But I knew where I wanted to end up. I knew that I would love to run my own business or be a CEO. That's my eventual goal. And there's ways that even if you don't know 100% where you want to be, you can still plan your career path. And I think the best ways to do that is kind of looking at your strengths and weaknesses, seeing what you really enjoy. Like I said, I really enjoy managing people. I really enjoy talking to people. I'm a big talker. I could talk for England. So I think looking at those skills, looking at what jobs they relate to really helps. It's really important to kind of plan a career path because it helps you manage the direction of your career. If you know what job you want to be in, you can look at kind of the experience you need, what type of qualifications you need, and you can kind of start planning how you're going to get there. So for me, if I wanted to be a CEO, I look at how I become a CEO. What is the gap between where I am now and where I want to be? And what do I need to do to get there? So I think that's really important to understand. And I heavily relied on career advisors. So I had weekly meetings with a career advisor at high school, at college, at university. So I think it is important to plan your career. Super, super important because it helps you get clear on what you want your career to look like as well. And like I said, it just helps you plan out your journey. It's really good to have a plan. Doesn't mean that you have to completely stick to it. Things change. You might decide in 5 years' time, actually, I don't really want to do this anymore. Let's do something else. But you've got that plan in place and you're going to get where you want to be. And then you may change your mind. That's fine. I just think it's super important to have a plan because then you know you can have like a tick list of everything you need to do to get to that place you have a plan, you have direction, and you're going to end up achieving it a lot quicker and a lot more efficient than you would if you didn't have a plan. So moving on. So now moving on to kind of the importance of time management. This is something that employers, universities, anything you apply for, they usually typically ask for time management skills. I mean, if you think about it now, a lot of us do have time management skills, but I think a lot of people just can't put it into words of how they have time management skills. Having good time management skills actually helps in a lot of ways. It really helps you have more free time because you can plan out things, tick them off your list, and then have that free time to do what you want, your hobbies, your interests, anything like that. It also opens you up to kind of new possibilities and new opportunities. And it also helps kind of create stronger and better personal relationships with people because they can rely on you to get the work done. And they can rely on you to kind of have that time away as well to focus on you. You've got that self-development, but you've also got, you're getting your tasks done, you're getting your jobs done. So it's kind of like a fine balance. I also think time management is really important because it does help to enhance your kind of decision-making ability. And it does also help you perform so much better in work and studies. I think as well, this was something that was really important to me when I started university because the workload was a lot bigger than I'd kind of expected. There was a lot of assignments, a lot of deadlines. They obviously put a lot of pressure on you to get work experience, to volunteer. There's a lot that you've got to do or you're expected to do. So I think by planning everything out and being better timed, then you're not going to be stressing as much. You're going to perform so much better and you're going to stand out when you go for interviews. So I would say kind of some of my top tips on how to better manage your time. I think it is really important to kind of understand how you can improve your time management skills, is always make a to-do list, even a daily to-do list. What I usually do in the morning, I look at my calendar at work, kind of see what meetings I'm going to be in. I also see what deadlines I've got to meet and I write a to-do list in prioritised order of what needs to be done first. And it really helps me kind of hone in on what the key focus is for the day. And it helps you along the way as well. You can keep looking at it throughout the day, tick off your list. And I'd also kind of advise to set time limits for each task so you're not spending too much time on one or too little on another. Like I said, if you prioritise the list, you will know that one is higher than the other. So really you should spend the most time on that to get it complete because it's due in tomorrow. I also, like I said, create a plan for your day, like a timetable kind of. It will really help you just kind of focus and use your time well. But I also think it's super important, and don't ever forget, always allocate time for rest and recharge. Don't try and squish in everything in a short amount of time. You need that time away from your computer. You need that time to go out for some fresh air, to refocus, get a clearer mind. If you're just constantly working all the time, you're not going to produce good work. So always allocate some time in your day to go for a 10-minute walk or just get away from your computer screen and have that time to recharge. And that will really help you with your time management as well. So moving on to the importance of resilience. So I think this word is thrown around a lot. In my interview in April of last year, I was asked about resilience as well. They said that that was one of their kind of key skills they wanted in a person to employ. But I think it's a lot easier now to show that you're resilient because with COVID, a lot of us have had to be resilient. We've had to work from home, we've had to study from home, we've had to, balance everything and be resilient and kind of keep that positive approach to work and to university and to college. But it's always proven that in an interview that was always kind of a bit difficult. You need to show that you do have that positive approach to work and kind of have a positive outlook on life. You obviously don't need to be positive all the time. It's impossible to be positive all the time. But knowing that if you do something wrong in work, it's not going to be the end of the world, or something goes bad in your day, it's not going to ruin your whole day, is the best thing ever, because it's just going to help you stay focused, have better days. And yeah, it kind of helps you with kind of maintaining that motivation at work as well. So I think one of the things I always struggled with was kind of showing resilience in your CV. So I always tailor my CV to the job I'm applying for. So I look at kind of the skills that they're asking for. So if it's time management, I'll try and mention time management in my CV, or if they're looking for resilience, I'll try and mention resilience in my CV. Because a lot of the times when you put in a CV, they kind of scan it and they're looking for pop-up words. So if you use those keywords that they use in their skills kind of requests, it's normally going to go to someone in HR. So it's always the best way. So I would always say tailor your CV to the job you're applying for. You don't want to send the same CV to everyone, because that's just not going to fit the job. So I would say some of the ways you can kind of show resilience in your CV is maybe discussing a time when you've had a change in work or a study situation. So you could say COVID. You could say that you've had to study from home, you've been resilient, you've attended every lesson, you've got your work done on time. That is pure resilience. You can kind of give examples of when things have got challenging at work and what you've done to overcome them, or even when you've been given more responsibility. Or in my interview with Hermes, I said my resilience answer is that in second year at university, we had to secure a work experience placement. And I applied for one in a massive company, and there was only, I think, 5 spaces, and I really thought I was going to get it. So I didn't kind of have any backup plans, because I just thought in my head, yes, this is for me, like I'm going to get this. And unfortunately, I didn't get it. And at that time, I had 1 week to find a work placement, which was extremely stressful. But I used my contacts in my network, as I always do, and I was able to get work experience at Akzo Nobel, who owns Dulux Decorating Centres. So that showed that I was resilient. Yes, I'd been knocked back, and yes, I'd been rejected from a job. I could have gone home, thought about it all the time, felt really bad about it, not put any plan in place or consider my other options. Or I was resilient and thought, okay, I didn't get that job. I'm a bit annoyed about it, but I need to focus on getting my work experience. So that shows that I was resilient, and they really liked that example as well. And to be able to answer a question on resilience in an interview, always describe the situation just like I did. So I've discussed the challenge that I was presented with, that I had a week to find a work experience, and that's very little time because there's a lot of forms that the company have got to fill out, health and safety forms, everything like that, and what steps I took to overcome this challenge. So that's really good. They want to hear how you overcome it. They're not so bothered about the situation itself, but it's how you overcome the challenge that makes you stand out. So always talk about the steps you took, because they love those. They love those kind of answers. So yeah, that would be my top tips for resilience. Networking. So I think when you're at high school, you don't really kind of get exposed to networking as much as I would want to. And again, I think it's the same at college. I don't think there's a lot of presence on the importance of networking, but it is extremely important. I mean, as I put on there, it is defined as something that is used by professionals, but it can be used by anyone. If you want to widen your circle of who you know, as it'll help you find job opportunities, increase your awareness of people in the industry that you want to work in, then do it. I mean, it's the best thing I've ever done. Like I said, a lot of my work experiences, a lot of my jobs, a lot of my internships, I got because I knew someone there. I used my network, and it wasn't family, friends. It was people that I'd been exposed to during my previous work experiences, or I'd met them at college, or I'd met them through Career Ready, Young Enterprise. It's so important to remember these people and use them to benefit you, because when you're searching for a job, especially in the current market, I think the best thing to do is use your network. Ask people, do they know of any job opportunities, or even, do you have a week where I could come and do some work experience? Because work experience looks great on your CV anyway. So it's really important to use who you know and use it well. I think wasn't really a presence of networking at high school and college. And I remember in one of my college assembly halls, they questioned who had set up a LinkedIn account. And out of about 200 people, I was the only one that put my hand up. And I'm not really sure why I set up a LinkedIn account. No one ever told me about it. I think I just set it up because I probably thought it was another form of social media. But it really benefited me because at that stage, I was the only person in that room that had used LinkedIn before. And at that point, I had maybe 40 contacts on there. But those 40 contacts are valuable people. You can use them, you can contact them, you can ask them questions, ask them for tips, ask them for exposure. I remember at one point I was looking for a job and I put a post on LinkedIn, and so many people in my network shared it to their pages, which means I'm getting exposed to even more people that I don't know. So I really think LinkedIn is super important. And if you haven't got a LinkedIn account, I highly recommend that you set one up, because it will help you be exposed to the network. I also think getting a mentor in the sector that you think you want to work in is really important. They can kind of give you advice on how you should write your CV, what kind of the industry expects from a CV, what qualifications you could do or where you could get work experience. I think a mentor is the best thing. I had a mentor during college, I had a mentor during university. I think it's really important because you can rely on that person to ask questions about the industry, or even ask questions about interviews. How do I answer this? How do I answer that? I would suggest getting a mentor. It's very easy as well. Like I said, if you set up a LinkedIn account, you can literally post on there, does anyone know someone in recruitment that would like to be my mentor? It's very easy to find someone that's willing to take up the time to kind of give you some advice. I also think it's super important to consider, who do you already know in your network? Do you know family, friends that own businesses? Or is there anyone that you know that owns a business, works in a business, is high up in a business, that could maybe provide you with some advice, provide you with some work experience, anything like that? It's super important to think about who you already know, because I think you forget who you know as well. Like my granddad was very high up in a company and I always forget, but you can use those contacts and say, is there any way I can just come in the office for a day and shadow you? Or is there any way I can get some work experience here? I think looking at all your contacts, looking at all your family, friends, looking at who your parents know, is really important. Honestly, I think overarching is LinkedIn account though. I would set one up today if you haven't got one. It's the best thing I've done. I've met so many people through LinkedIn. I message a lot of people about advice. I started this new job and someone on my LinkedIn did the same job. So I asked them for top tips, what systems to use, what techniques, tools. And it's really helpful to just rely on those kind of people as well and find them on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, highly recommend setting up a LinkedIn and highly recommend finding a mentor. So yeah, that's what I would say about networking, and I would start now. The bigger the group of people you know, the more opportunities you'll get to be exposed to that certain industry that you want to be in. So yeah, it's super important. And then here's just a couple of kind of pictures of my, I would say, experiences or key achievements, mainly relating to Young Enterprise. So the picture on the left is the first Young Enterprise competition I entered, so that was company programme, and that's me in the newspaper. You'll notice throughout all the pictures I change my hair every time, so I've got blonde hair now. But yeah, so we won Best Process Presentation and Administration, and that was a big deal for us. We were in the newspaper. Sale High School had never got to that point before, so it was a really great experience. And that was the first time I'd ever done a presentation in front of a large crowd as well. So that was really great exposure. The second picture is just me being involved in Global Entrepreneurship Week. So as I said, I decided at college to kind of look into business, enterprise and entrepreneurship. And I always tried to get involved in things where you kind of got to run a business, or we kind of set up initiatives to encourage other people to set up a business. So that was really great. And then again, yeah, in college, I did Young Enterprise Startup Programme, and there's me with my trophy, my Northwest Young Enterprise Student of the Year. And what makes this achievement even better for me is that we were actually the only college representing there. All the others were universities, so they were all older than me. And I didn't even know I'd been nominated for this award, so it was a massive surprise. But it was an amazing surprise, and I've got the trophy on the shelf over there, so that was a great experience. And then just the last picture is just the Association of Colleges Highly Commended Student of the Year in the UK. So I got invited down to the House of Commons, had a private tour, had a celebration evening, and then there's me with MP Mike Kane of Labour Party. So yeah, that was a great experience as well. So kind of all my experiences, I think, highly linked to Young Enterprise. And I think it's great that you've all been involved in Young Enterprise, or you are involved in Young Enterprise. And if you're part of this alumni network, that's another great way to network and meet new people. You're going to be able to meet other students who've been kind of exposed to Young Enterprise and could be even further on in their careers. And how good is that? You can use them. You can ask them, oh, how did you get where you are now? Or what would you suggest for interviews? Use those people, use those contacts, and you will get where you want to be. So just to kind of summarise on my presentation, I hope I haven't rambled, and I hope you've been able to understand me because I talk about 200 miles per hour. But yeah, summary key points that I would suggest to take away from this session is really start to have a think about your career plans. Don't put too much pressure if you still don't know what you want to do. It's not a massive deal that you don't know what you want to do. But start thinking, maybe listing out your strengths, your weaknesses, things you really enjoy to do. And then start finding a job that relates to them. Start looking into careers that relate to the things you enjoy. And I'm sure you'd be able to find something that you would enjoy. Research that job. Find out the skills necessary for it. Find out the kind of experience that's required for that, and start planning how you're going to get there. Definitely develop your time management skills. Super important for any job you go into. You're going to get things thrown at you left, right, and centre. I mean, I've been in back-to-back meetings every day for the past 2 weeks, and I've also had to do work alongside them. So it's managing your time well. That will help you succeed in your job. Also consider kind of how you would answer a resilience question. How could you prove that you are resilient? Think of kind of a time that you have been resilient. Start thinking about how you would answer that question if it was asked to you in an interview. And also just on networking, consider who you know. Ask if you can go in for a day, do some work experience, do some virtual work experience. It's possible. I started my job completely virtually. I've been into the office twice and I've been here for 5 months. So it's doable. You can get some virtual work experience. If you can, do it. Or just think about who you know, or set up a LinkedIn account. Get part of the alumni Young Enterprise. Start contacting people in that. You will surely find someone that will be able to help you, provide you with information. I mean, I'm more than happy to provide you with information. I'm on LinkedIn. If you had a question about an interview or anything, I'm there. There's so many people you can find on LinkedIn. So I highly recommend setting up a LinkedIn account as the first thing to do after this call. I would do it straight away. It will be a great opportunity and a great tool to use throughout your career. So yeah, I'd say that's kind of the key points that I would suggest taking away from my presentation. So I hope you enjoyed, and I guess I'll open up for any questions, if that's all right.
Well, thank you so much, Brittany. That was amazing. I really, really enjoyed that session. And yeah, for me, particularly the bit about resilience, I thought was fantastically put across. You know, how you can actually use those past experiences that might have been really tough and challenging at the time, but you can actually bring the positives from that. So I thought that was That was fantastic. And really, to echo your points on LinkedIn, really agree with that. I think that is a fantastic way to network. As part of our alumni webinar series, we actually have had a speaker who was an expert in LinkedIn, and he shared some really, really great tips. So that's up on our YouTube channel, and I'd be happy to share that with everybody after if you're interested in that. And the other thing as well, for current alumni and for the students, when you finish the programme, we also have an alumni network called Gather. And Gather's an international platform that's just for young enterprise alumni over here in the UK and around the world. So you get to connect with alumni and connect with different opportunities that are put forward. So really, really would recommend you get involved with that. So I actually have a question for you, Brittany, before we open up. And whilst Brittany's answering this, if you do have questions, please pop them into the Q&A box. And we've got a few already, which is great. But I wanted to know whether planning came naturally to you. You know, I think it was really interesting through your whole presentation that it was always coming back to that planning element. And was that something that was natural? Because I know for me, I've always had like a fuzzy idea of a plan in my head, and actually it was really quite tough being able to turn that idea into a really formulated plan. And I've had to work really, really hard on that to figure out what that looked like in practice. Is that something you had to learn, or is it something that you were quite good at?
I think my time at high school really helped me get better at planning, especially in year 10. I think my exposure to young enterprise really helped, because we had to plan when we were going to sell at markets, what we were going to sell, when we were going to buy stuff, how were we going to come up with the money. We needed full concrete plans. I think that really helped. And now I absolutely love plans. I write them all down all the time. I've got 2 notepads next to me with dates on it, plans, to-do lists. But I think it's something you need to kind of learn to enjoy, because it is something that is going to benefit your career forever. It's something you can do all the time. And it takes 5 minutes to write down your to-do list for the day. It doesn't take long. But yeah, I think initially I probably didn't really like to plan. I was quite kind of I would say a flexible person. I didn't really put down any plans until I probably say year 10, when I had exposure to young enterprise. It made me really think, actually, I need to start planning things. I need to start writing to-do lists. And honestly, it's helped me so much, especially with time management, but also organisation. I can get tasks done when they need to be done, and I'm never late with those. So yeah, it's something that I've learned to enjoy.
Oh, neat. That's fantastic. So we've had a question from Stella. Do you have any tips about feeling comfortable and not shy during work experience placements? Okay,
yeah, so I think it is very difficult. I think everyone feels nervous when they go and do work experience. I always feel really nervous. When I started this new job, I didn't know anyone. I think it's really good to kind of just get to know people. Just be open. You might have those quiet times. Don't feel pressured to speak if you don't want to speak. Shyness isn't a bad thing. It means that you're probably a very attentive listener. You probably listen very well. I'm kind of the opposite. I talk a lot and I probably don't listen as well. So shyness isn't a bad thing, but I think just remember that it's an experience and you make that experience. What you do with that 1 week, 1 day, 1 month, whatever, however long it is, it's down to you to make it what you want it to be. So just be open to it. You don't have to force yourself to be confident, but just try and get involved in as much as you can. And just remember why you're doing it and why it's going to benefit you. But don't put too much pressure on yourself to be that confident, loud person. If that's not who you are, then that's not who you are. I know plenty of people that have excelled in their careers, in Hermes, in many businesses I've worked in, and they are quite laid back, reserved, shy. It's not a bad thing. I would never worry about that. Never worry about being shy, because, like I said, it could work in your favour if you're a very attentive listener. So yeah, I would just say, remember why you're there. Think about how it's going to benefit you. And and just work closely with whoever is kind of there to support you, your line manager, and just say, yeah, I'm a little bit reserved, I'm a little bit shy. Can you kind of introduce me to the team if you don't feel comfortable? Just get to know people on that level, and you'll get more confident as time goes on.
Oh, super. I love that answer. It's brilliant. We had a couple of questions submitted when people signed up. So the first one was, is it awkward to start networking, and how do you get over that? So I suppose actually that's very similar to the last question we've just had.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those things, you do always feel a bit strange networking, especially as a young person, and you're kind of in a room with a lot of adults who are kind of a lot further in their careers than you are. You're just kind of starting off, and you do kind of feel a bit awkward, like, what do I talk to them about? What if we don't have the same interests? But honestly, I think it's one of those things, it's just having a conversation with a normal person. Don't think it as networking. Just think, this is a person, I'm going to have a conversation with them, ask them how they are, what they do. Just don't think of it as a interview style thing, because it's not. It's a conversation, it's getting to know people. It's like making new friends. That's all networking is. It's making new friends. So think about how you made new friends in high school. You just approach people and talk to them, find out what their interests are. Don't put pressure on it that it's a full professional thing. Yes, you need to remain kind of a professional sense, but it is a conversation. That's how I got to know a lot of my network. I always start off with, oh, you do this, this and this, that sounds amazing, can you tell me a bit about it? Just having a conversation will really help, and it's going to feel awkward for them and it's going to feel awkward for you, so please do not worry about it. Networking is one of those things that I think when you put a name on it, that's when you start to feel awkward about it. So don't even think about it as networking, think about it as a friendly conversation, and I'm sure it will help ease your kind of stresses and worries about it, and you'll be absolutely fine.
Well, that's great advice. I really like that. One of my favourite books, so I'm quite interested in public speaking, and one of my favourite books is called And Death Came Third. And it talks about what human beings are afraid of. And number one fear in the world is public speaking. And number two, walking into a room full of strangers to network. And death came third, which is really quite ridiculous when you think about it like that. But yeah, I think that's some really, really practical advice, because I think that awkwardness and that uncomfortableness is something that a lot of people feel. And yeah, I just love how you've completely reframed that to be just think about it as making a new friend and coming at it from that perspective. That's brilliant.
Thank you.
Cool. So next question, when you set up your young enterprise business, how did you raise sufficient funds to set yourself up well to support the business projects?
Yeah, so in both cases, we kind of set up a lot of fundraising. So this is where planning came in. We knew the dates of like the finals. We knew when we had to trade on the market. So we knew we needed products. So I think at high school, it's very small things like cake sales, raffles, everything like that. Whereas at college, we kind of used a lot of shareholders. So our whole team kind of went home, kind of told them about the business, saw if they wanted to kind of buy some shares from us. But we also did raffles. I think that was it actually. We just did raffles. We didn't do cake sales at college. But yeah, I think it doesn't have to be a super innovative thing for fundraising. There's always going to be people out there that want to support a local business. So doing a raffle, doing guess how many sweets are in a jar, guess the size of this teddy, anything like that will raise money. Shareholders, really important. If you know, like, is your family supporting you? Would they put £1, £2, £3 in? It starts adding up when the whole team gets one person as a shareholder. I think in the startup program as well, we also all bought shares as a team because that helped raise initial funds as well. Whereas in high school, we relied heavily on fundraising. So yeah, just do things like that. Raffles, you can also probably use social media as well to do raffles. You could put a package on there and say, do you want to buy a ticket for £1? And I'll announce the winner on Facebook. Stuff like that. very little things will help you raise money, and it doesn't cost you a lot to kind of get sweets in a jar, but you could probably raise like up to £100 if you kind of market it very well. So yeah, that's kind of what I would suggest. But yeah, ours were very much cake sales, raffles, sweets in a jar, and shareholders.
Oh, neat. That was really, really interesting. We've had another question. I want to do a degree apprenticeship. I'm so passionate about law and finance, but I don't know what I want to do. I want to become a CEO eventually, or have my own business. Sounds quite similar to your aspirations, Brittany. So the question really is, do you recommend anything?
I would just say try to get exposure to kind of law and finance if you can. Use your network. Definitely research it. I think with any job, getting experience in it before you do a degree is really good as well, just to make sure that it's definitely kind of the avenue that you want to go down. And yeah, just make sure it's definitely, because obviously a degree, like I said, was a big deal for me. That's why I kind of took a gap year to make that decision. So if you're going to do a degree apprenticeship and you know you want to be CEO and you want to kind of work in the law environment, start following people, finding people on LinkedIn that are in the law environment. Ask them questions. Ask them, what would you expect an interview to be like? Or what kind of questions would they ask? Or what do I need to get where you are in your career? I think just doing that and just, yeah, getting to know knowledge of the kind of sector you want to be in. It's very easy to find online. Just research kind of the law industry, what kind of qualifications you need, how can you excel. If you definitely know that degree apprenticeship is what you want to do, start buying the books that they usually recommend as well, because you can start doing some pre-reading. And yeah, I'd probably just suggest that. Use your network, see if you can get some work experience to make sure it's something that you really like. But like I said, don't worry about the fact that you're not sure what you want to do in law and finance, but you know you want to run your own business, or you know you want to be a CEO, because you've got that end goal there. You'll get there. So just enter the market in law, get that exposure, get that understanding of the kind of law world, get some work experience, and it'll really help you in kind of any area that you want to go in law. So yeah, I'd probably suggest that.
Oh, great. Yeah, I like that. Another one. Is networking something that involves starting up your own business?
Definitely not, no. You don't have to have your own business to kind of network. I don't run my own business. I work for Hermes, so you don't need to run your own business. The other person doesn't need to run their own business. They could just be a marketer in a company. Networking is literally there for you to get new people in that industry. So if you want to work in law, you network with people that are in the law sector, understand what their job is and where they got where they are. It doesn't have to be just because you're starting a business, but if you are starting a business, again, networking would be great. Networking with other people that own small businesses, because they will be able to help you, give you advice, tips on how to excel running your own business. So it works for anyone. If you're a professional, if you're an up-and-coming degree student, if you're looking for a job, if you're not sure where you want to go, or if you're running your own business, networking works for everyone. It's going to benefit you in every way. Like I said, a lot of my network I didn't use for a couple of years, and then I messaged them and said, oh, like I really need a job. Do you have one, or do you know one? And even though I hadn't spoken to them in a while, they knew my work ethic. They knew me because they'd met me. They'd seen what I was like. They know kind of my experiences. So I would just say it works for everyone. Small businesses, individuals. It's not just for one group of people. So I hope it helps.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, and I completely echo that. I think networking, it's something that I don't know, I certainly wasn't taught when I was at school, like you said, but it's just one of those skills that we can all learn to be better at, but it's one of those really transferable skills that it doesn't matter whether it's setting up your own business, whether it's your young enterprise business, or whether you're going off on a different career path entirely. It's just one of those skills that's so valuable for everything, really. Another question, what was your favourite part of Young Enterprise?
Ooh, I would say there was two. So definitely the selling side of things. So I know it's a bit difficult this year because I think you've got to sell online. But I really liked selling on markets. It gave me people walked past and I was trying to get them to buy my products. So I definitely enjoyed selling. And then I would say definitely the presentations at the finals. So at both finals we had to do a presentation, and I love presenting. I love talking, as you've probably noticed. So yeah, that was definitely kind of my top two favourite moments. But I'd also just say as well, being in a team, especially in high school, you do sports with teams and stuff like that, but this was different. I got to be able to work with people I probably wouldn't normally work with, or be friends with normally in school, or be exposed to in school. And I think that really helped because those skills I've been able to take, I can work with anyone now, in any kind of business or anything that I do. I can work with anyone. So I think that was a really good thing as well, just learning to be a team and be as one and work together. So yeah, I think the whole experience was great. I loved it all. So it's kind of hard to pick my top ones. I wish I could do it all again, which I'm sure a lot of people do say. But I do wish I could do it again. That's probably why I did it twice. But yeah, definitely sales, presentation, team working, and the competition side of things as well. I'm very competitive, so that really was great as well. So I hope that answered the question.
Oh, fantastic. No, I love it. Another question. Oh, you're volunteering as a business advisor now. So yeah, I guess you sort of enjoyed it that much that you're coming back and volunteering with us. So how important is it to get involved with volunteering initiatives, do you think?
I think it's really important. I think it really helps you stand out on your CV, because a lot of the times, like when I applied for Hermes, they asked me what Young Enterprise was. They hadn't heard of it, but they were really intrigued, and that started the conversation. And that started the conversation of, I've experienced Young Enterprise twice. I want to be a mentor for them. And it makes them interested in it, and it makes them think, wow, we've never heard of this before, if they haven't heard of it before, or we don't know anyone that's done Young Enterprise before. Wow, this is different. And it makes you really stand out. But yeah, I think volunteering is super important. It also, like, especially with COVID, I think at the moment it's probably very difficult to find part-time jobs, because I know in high school, well, in college, I highly relied on kind of bartending, hospitality industry, and obviously that's struggling at the moment. So volunteering is a really great way to kind of get some experience on your CV and show that you're using your time to do something else. And I always do it something that I really enjoy. I don't think you should volunteer for something that you're not really invested in and you're not really kind of loving and enjoying. You need to pick something that you think, wow, it doesn't even have to be something that's going to enhance your career. That's what work experience is for. Volunteering should be something that you really enjoy and you really kind of like to spend the time to do. So I really like to give advice to students. I really like to help them in their career paths and to help them grow and give advice on my life lessons. And I like talking, so it really works for me and I love it. So I would always say, yes, volunteering is important. If you're going to do it, pick something you thoroughly enjoy. You could work at a dog centre if you really love dogs. You could work at a charity shop because you really support that charity. Do something that you're going to enjoy, because there's no point volunteering with a sad face on, because they're just not going to, you're not going to enjoy it and they're not going to enjoy it either. So yeah, if you're going to do volunteering, do it for something you're really passionate about, and yeah, it'll look amazing on your CV. So yeah, if you've got the time to do it, I would highly suggest that you do volunteering.
Super. And I think that kind of ties in really nicely with another question we've just had, which is, how would you recommend getting work experience in your local area?
Yeah, so I probably, because I'm quite loud and confident, I typically would just walk into the shop and hand in a CV. But if you're not like that, you can always use social media as well. So if you don't have LinkedIn, you could possibly use Facebook, because a lot of businesses are on Facebook. I'm in a group on Facebook for my local area where all the businesses are in it, all the local areas in it, and if I wanted to get work experience, I could probably put in that page, does anyone know of any work experience I could get in so and so sector? But I think it's always best. I mean, it's a bit difficult with COVID at the moment, but I think it's always best to go in and introduce yourself, because then they're seeing a face to a name, and then they remember, oh, she was the girl that brought the CV in. Again, like I said, it's very difficult at the moment, but I think use social media if you can. It's very easy to find contact details for local businesses. It's much easier than, I would say, larger businesses, because a lot of larger businesses won't share a kind of HR function email, whereas local businesses have an email that they use regularly. So maybe send over a CV to their email address, or if you don't have a CV, just send an email just saying, I'd be really interested if I could do some work experience. Even if you can only do a day, that would be fine. Yeah, I'd just do that. If you could do it, obviously without COVID, I'd recommend going into the local business that you want to work in, handing in your CV, introducing yourself, or using emails, or using Facebook if you can, or LinkedIn. That will work as well. So yeah, I'd probably suggest that.
Cool. You have covered a lot about this, but the question's been asked about your network sounds amazing. So how do you actually build this?
Yeah, so it has taken a long time. I mean, like I said, when I had LinkedIn at 16, I'm 23 now, so I think I had 40 followers at 16. I now have 500 plus. LinkedIn does that annoying thing where it doesn't actually tell you how many people you've got, but I've got over 500. So it's one of those things where whenever I met someone or I was exposed to someone, so especially in college, we had a lot of people come in to give us talks. They gave us talks about motivation or anything like that. I would always go up to them and say, can I add you on LinkedIn, or do you have a card? So I'd have their email address or their contact details. And I think that's how you build it up. You don't even have to have like a full-blown conversation with them. I mean, they probably will want to have one, because I would want to have one. But even just saying, oh, is it all right if I add you on LinkedIn? That's someone in your network. That's one person done. I think relying a lot, like my tutor at college was great. Whenever I told her, oh, like I'd really like to go into this sector, or I think this is a sector I'd like to go into, she'd always say, oh, I know someone, let me email them, and I'll get them to add you on LinkedIn. That was another way of kind of getting those extra contacts. Again, I suggest using people maybe you know, so family, friends, or just friends of friends of friends of friends. Yeah, it takes a while, but it does build up. I mean, I met Danielle on LinkedIn. I didn't know Danielle. I think she popped up on my LinkedIn feed because someone that we mutually knew liked her post, and I thought, oh, well, actually, she seems amazing. Let's add her on LinkedIn, and that's another person that I've got in my network, and obviously I've been able to communicate with her that I wanted to volunteer in some way. So it's definitely, it takes time, but it doesn't take too much time. Think about who you've been exposed to, or who you're going to be exposed to, because I suspect now as well, especially in college, because everything's virtual, they are getting a lot more speakers in, from what I know, because I work quite heavily with a local college around here, and they're getting a lot of speakers in to do virtual talks. So maybe say, if you don't feel confident saying it out loud, put in the message box, is it okay if I add you on LinkedIn, or do you have a contact email address? And that's a contact. So it's very easy to build a network. And like I said before, Young Enterprise Alumni will be very easy to add people as well. That will build your network. So yeah, it'll take time, but it will definitely happen quite quickly, because there's so many people that are willing to offer that help and be there to kind of give advice and support. So yeah, you'll get there.
Super, brilliant advice, and actually really ties neatly into the next question we've just been asked, and I think we'll make this our last question since we have 4 minutes left.
Okay.
And it's the question is, what kind of volunteering could you do during lockdown? And there's, of course, as you've just mentioned, actually public speaking, like what you're doing now, Brittany, is a volunteering opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there's actually a lot of things you could do. So you could contact, if you're really good at social media, you could contact a local business and say, why don't I set up a Facebook page for you if they don't have one? Or why don't I run your Facebook page for a week and try and get the engagement up? Or if you're good at design, create logos for a business or create flyers for a business. It's very easy if you think about what you want to kind of gain from that work experience. Pitching it to them very well, you'll be absolutely fine. I know that like things are very difficult at the moment, and I don't envy students trying to find experience. And like I said, I was in this position last year when I was applying for jobs. I was really worried because of COVID that I wouldn't find anything. But honestly, there is always a local business that wants that extra support, and they will probably want it for free. So that's that work experience. So yeah, I think if you know kind of, if you're good at social media, if you're good at even finances, you could say like, why don't I kind of set up a spreadsheet for you if you don't have one? You know, like if they don't use proper accounts for their financials, anything like that. There's always a way to support a local business. But I also think as well, a lot of corporate companies are offering virtual work experience. So I would just look around. I've just Googled work experience, virtual work experience. I'm sure there's plenty out there, because I know there's a lot of local businesses and a lot of corporate companies doing it, because it's actually a lot easier for them to do it virtually now as well, because they don't have to work out all the logistics of getting you to the office, all the health and safety around it. It's a lot easier for you to actually do it virtually anyway, so it works out really well. So yeah, I would look online, see if you can find anything from corporate companies. If you can't find anything from corporate companies, look around your local area. Email them, send them a letter if they don't have email, but I suspect they will, or message them on Facebook and say, oh, I've noticed you don't do this, why don't I do it? Or why don't I run your social media for a week? Or why don't I create some flyers for you? Or anything like that. There's always something you'll be able to find to do. And then, yeah, I think that would be what I'd suggest. Just email companies that you're interested in as well. Don't just email like 100 companies at once saying, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. Pick a company that you really like, a local business that you enjoy, and say, yeah, I'd really like to help you grow your business. I can work for you for a week. And I'm sure that they'd be more than happy to help. So, yeah.
That's really, really great advice. And just to add to that, particularly for our alumni on Gather, we are offering some great opportunities on there, and the worldwide team managed to get a work experience up last year with Twitter, which was all done virtually. So those opportunities are becoming more and more frequent. So I have popped the URL for Gather in the chat if you want to check that. If you want to join that out, that would be that'd be super. And just keep your eye out on the opportunities that they push out. And as I said, they are exclusively for alumni of Young Enterprise. So yeah, get involved with that. Wow, we are at 6 o'clock now. Thank you so much for your time, Brittany. It was amazing. Really, really enjoyed your presentation. It was packed full of value. And I really, really hope that everybody's enjoyed it, because it really was fantastic.